the very best of luck as well to Ben Stokes and his side out in Australia, because time to start to talk about the Ashes. Well, we've been talking about it for weeks and weeks, months and months, haven't we? But it all starts tomorrow. All eyes on the Optus Stadium in Perth. England reckon to have their best chance of winning a series down under since their last success in 2010 to 2011. Two debuts for Australia. Opening bat Jake Weatherald comes into the starting lineup. Bowler Brendan Doggett, who's waited a long time for his chance, will also line up due to a couple of key injuries there. Look, let's get more on this and cross down under to Perth and speak to former Aussie opening batsman Simon Katich. Morning, Simon.
Good morning, Simon.
Good morning, guys.
Hey, so Simon, time for the talking to stop. Can't wait for it, mate. But let's talk Australia first of all, and position you're familiar with, opening batsman. So they've gone for Jake Weatherald to partner Khawaja initially. Tell us a bit about Jake Weatherald. What can we expect to see?
Well, he's the Shield leading run scorer last season for Tasmania, over 900 runs and an average of 50. But it was his strike rate of around 68 that stood out, and I think that's what Australia have been looking for ever since David Warner retired. They obviously tried young Sam Constas, who had an immediate impact last year on debut at the MCG against India, where he put Jasprit Bumrah to the sword with all his ramp shots and all the tricks, but he's found it tough at the start of the season for New South Wales, had a tough tour of the West Indies midway through 2025 and finds himself on the outer. But Jake Weatherall, 31, deserves his opportunity. He moved from South Australia down to Tassie a couple of seasons ago after some sort of mixed form and some mental health issues, and he's forced his way into this team through sheer weight of runs on what is a tricky wicket down in Hobart. So he's had a decent start to the season and thoroughly deserves his opportunity.
Simon, England have some top batsmen. Which one do you fear the most, mate?
Without a doubt, in my mind, it's Harry Brook. He's at 5. He's had an amazing start to his Test career. I think he's averaging 57 already, and it's the way that he scores. He comes in, puts pressure on the bowlers straight away. And the thing that stands out to me is his away record. He hasn't actually done as well in England as he's done away from home. I think he averages around 80 away from home. He has struggled on these shores before, albeit when he was here at the Big Bash, totally different format. So I take that with a grain of salt. But his form has been outstanding. He's coming off some really good one-day scores in New Zealand in tricky conditions there. And I think that number 5 role will be pivotal for both teams. We've seen Travis Head do it brilliantly over the last 4 or 5 years here in Australia. Counter-attacks, gets big hundreds, puts pressure on the opposition when that ball gets to sort of 40, 50 overs old. And I expect Harry Brook to try and do the same in this Ashes series for England.
Do the Aussies see any sort of potential vulnerability, Simon, in England's top order? Duckett and Crawley, maybe Ollie Pope in earlier than he would like?
Yeah, look, I think both teams will look to expose both top orders. I think there's some strong bowling lineups. Obviously, Australia are weakened slightly because Cummins is out and Hazelwood misses this Test as well. But it's a great opportunity for young Doggett, who's on debut, albeit he's 31, but he earns his chance on the back of some really strong form for South Australia in the last few years. I think he's got 66 wickets, about 21, including 11 in the Shield final earlier this year. So he deserves his opportunity. But both top orders will be up against it because the conditions here in Australia in the last couple of seasons have been pretty lively. So that first 30 overs is going to be crucial to this Ashes. And look, there's no doubt England will be aggressive at the top of the order. Australia probably a little bit different sort of game plan. They'll try and wear England down a bit more. But I think the danger for England is they go too hard too early and expose Root, Brook and Stokes with a 20, 30 overall ball, and then it's game on, because the Australian quicks in these conditions have been outstanding in the last few years.
The papers have been hammering the English as usual. Why do you guys hate Bazball so much?
Oh, look, I wouldn't say hate. I think there's a lot of people here that have enjoyed watching it. I think, me for one, I think there's a time and place for it. And I think there's no doubt England have played it really well in flat conditions, particularly in England where the wickets have probably been a little bit slower and lower than what we experience here in Australia, and potentially when they've played it in Pakistan and places like that where the conditions suit. So there's no doubt it's brought a difference point of difference to Test cricket, and there's a time and place for it. However, it's going to be a challenge to try and do it here, particularly at Optus Stadium and maybe the Gabba with a pink ball, where the wickets might be a bit more bowler friendly, and that's where the top order has to make a decision. Are they going to try and wear down the bowlers for the first 20 overs, or are they going to keep doubling down on Bazball? And I expect them to double down, because it sounds like all the rhetoric coming out of Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum is, we're going to keep going hard, and whatever will be, will be.
Yeah, yeah. Look, it's going to be a great occasion with Ben Doggett. I mean, he's waited long enough for his chance, hasn't he? I think he was called up in 2018, didn't play, and hasn't played since. But look, we're all talking about the pace bowlers and those who are missing, no Cummins and no Hazelwood, and the potential for injury for English pace bowlers. But I just wonder, over the course of the series, what part the spin department's going to play in all of this, Simon? You know, and whether Nathan Lyon could ultimately be one of the keys to the series. You seem to perform so well on home territory all the time.
Yeah, his record here in Australia is outstanding. You know, the history of off-spinners in this country, some great off-spinners have come to this country and perished. Murali Dhuran had a poor record here. I think the best of the overseas spinners has probably been Dan Vittori, who's involved with the Australians at the moment as an assistant coach. But you know, Graham Swan, who was a fantastic off-spinner for England, he found it tough here on occasions. And there's been a number of them, Harbhajan Singh. So it's not the easiest place to bowl off-spin. Obviously, Shoaib Bashir is a young off-spinner, but he does have height on his side. He should get some bounce if he does play in these conditions. But Nathan Lyon, there's a reason we call him the GOAT here. His record in Australia is outstanding, and he will have a big role to play. There are a number of key wickets in that England batting lineup. The left-handers of Duckett and Ben Stokes and these guys who are dangerous players. He'll have a role to play, and I dare say that at some stage he will have a big say in this series.
Simon, is Perth the key to the whole series?
Oh, look, I think the first two are, because historically Australia have been very good at these two venues. Last year against India was the first time Australia have lost at Optus Stadium. They've got an imposing record here. It is very unique. It is like the old whacker wicket where it cracks up, the ball flies through, and there's plenty of assistance for the quicks. But it has spun as well, and that's where Nathan Lyon, his numbers at this venue have been outstanding. I think he averages in the mid-20s, and he's had a role to play as the test wears on. And I think the second test being a pink ball test, I don't think Australia have ever lost a pink ball test anywhere they played it. And the Gabba is another place that Australia have enjoyed a very formidable record, albeit they have lost a couple of tests there in the last few years, one against India and one against the West Indies when Shamar Joseph took 8 for. So in that aspect, England will feel like the Gabba's not quite the fortress it used to be. But given that it's a pink ball test and England don't play a lot of big pink ball tests, that's where Australia will feel if they can get off to a strong start, they could really, you know, go 2-0 up early in this series.
Simon, looking forward to it so much. Really appreciate you giving us your time this morning. Thanks, mate.
Thank you, Simon.
My pleasure, guys.
Don't forget you can tune into the latest episode of How to Win the Ashes on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. This week, Darren Goff's joined by former Aussie captain Michael Clarke. He was a player as well.